Hey guys, it's your favorite Donabout here, and today we're going to be discussing, can the Wulvers from God of War survive in Monster Hunter? Now, this is actually going to be very different from my signature videos where I do talk a little bit about power scaling when it comes to survival, but yeah, we're going to tone that down here today. We're not going to get into that, and we are going to be adding Boltoon, and we're going to treat them like natural monsters, quite obviously, right? And the fun part about this is one of the few things where we really can't dive into the scaling because, well, we know Kratos actually holds back on them, but even the lower ends from Kratos are just kind of extremely high for even the Monster Hunter world, which at bare minimum gets to like complex multiversal, especially with the lore and the black dragons. But then we also have the Elder Dragon tier, which is like solar system at best. So we are going to just talk about the Wulvers real quick, and we're just going to place the basic ones at Apex tier, while something like Boltoon I would definitely say is around the Elder Fighter tier, or the, Devil Joe and Espinaz tier. So that being said, the Wulvers actually inhabit realms like Vanaheim and Jotunheim more commonly, both in the Arctic and in the forest-like regions or these tropical forest areas. So believe it or not, the Wulvers are fine, with the strongest amongst them being their alpha, that being Boltoon, which is actually a pretty difficult boss that's able to resist a large majority of the players' attacks, or at least Kratos' attack. And keep in mind, they are very powerful, being able to use elongated claws and actually increase their strength via their rage and stuff, where you actually see their veins pop out. As for their breeding habits, we really don't know much about them, so we're going to give them the average pup range from a, well, wolf, which is around 2 to 10 pups, or the average range of 4 to 7. And keep in mind, these are pack animals as well, kind of like any other, wolf in general. And since they operate in the wild, they would likely coordinate hunts on much larger and some, interesting prey animals as well, considering we do know there are things like gazelles and wildebeest in Valderheim apparently. And well, with Boltoon being their alpha, he likely gets called in if a prey animal's too much. So we're going to be putting them in the snowy peaks of Frontier Dash Online. This is actually an area where it actually makes perfect sense for the Wulvers. As you guys can see here, there are some grasslands and Arctic regions mixed, so it's a perfect combination of Vanaheim and Jotunheim, to be honest. And so, with that being said, we have to talk about the environments that they can actually inhabit as well here. Considering they can use the open fields for hunting and the icy areas for cover, there are also cave systems that will actually be perfect for rearing up young. However, this will lead into competition and stuff like that. But right now, we're going to talk about, obviously, the first thing about this, or the first thing about any survival video: food. Okay, considering they can easily take over shelter, let's talk about food. And Anteca is actually going to be a very good prey animal on this list, because we're not dealing with some giant monster for once. It's kind of nice to kind of deviate from art creatures, or some of the bigger art creatures, and Goliath and stuff like that. It's nice to have a smaller creature and stuff we could just talk and speculate about. And so, believe it or not, I actually do think the Anteca would actually be very quite satisfying prey, possibly with surplus killing, especially if Wulvers, have more than 3 members in there. By the way, keep in mind, we are putting 20 Wulvers in there, with the 20th member being Boltoon, so it is what it is. Now, Aptonoth also inhabit the snowy peaks. I know, kind of crazy, but they inhabit the grassland areas more often than not. So, basically, yeah, the Wulvers would definitely be able to take out an Aptonoth, and I actually do think they would probably only take out one, because, again, they are pretty hefty and large creatures. However, again, if there is a large number of them, then yeah, obviously. Now, Kelby may actually be like a kind of their prey item. They'll probably be taken, but not as often, to be honest. So they're kind of safe from the Wulvers, but I'm saying, like, kind of, because they are still prey animals at the end of the day. Now, Popo, again, a very satisfying prey animal altogether. I think the fats, the reserves, the nutrition value that the Popo actually brings, it just makes perfect sense for them to actually have this. And believe it or not, I actually do think that only one Popo can satisfy an entire group. This even includes Boltoon as well. And in all honesty, I think that kind of just makes it simple. Next up, we do have the Bulldrome, and obviously the Bullfangos as well. Bulldromes are really nothing special. They just are just bigger Bofangos in all honesty, with their charge being over and over and over and over again. Like, dude, get your own rhythm, please. So yeah, they'll be interesting. They'll be decent prey items. And I think last but not least is the Archerman. And believe it or not, this is actually pretty interesting in my opinion, because it's simply a Gypsaros with ice abilities. But I actually love the design. It just looks like a crazed out Gypsaros here, which actually makes me wonder if this guy could definitely make a comeback in Wilds, because it would make perfect sense. It would be a perfect for the subspecies section and the subspecies list and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely think it would be interesting. And then we also have Gaiadrome as well. Sorry, I almost forgot about him. But, Gaiadrome and Gaia Prey, obviously, while they are, probably you could say competition, but again, they're not even Apex tier. They're like low rank. They're like in the same class as Great Izuchi and Great Ragi, which we all know Anjanath will happily snap up. So believe it or not, them being in this lower tier really doesn't help them, to be honest, and it would make them prey animals to even a regular pack of Wulvers. Now, the last one I have on this list for possible prey is Blangonga and Gonga. Now, Gonga, not Gonga, Blango. The Blangos in general would definitely be prey animals, but Blangonga actually provides a decent range of prey-competition for the Wulvers. They actually are essentially kind of alike in a way. You have Bloodtoon being able to lead his group through hunts and stuff like that, and likely Blangonga do the same thing, or Blangonga do the same thing as well, protecting their troops and hunting for prey as well. So yeah, pretty much. Now, Kezu was actually an interesting one in my opinion, especially with red and regular Kezu living here. And this is because they will inhabit the cave regions and ambush prey. So essentially, Wulver pups would definitely be in danger from the Kezu. However, due to their pack coordination, their ability to obviously climb, elongate their claws, and increase their rage, yeah, I don't see a problem for the wolves being able to take down Kezu. And believe it or not, I don't see the Wulvers really struggling, in this environment, especially when it comes to the prey animals. Blangonga is a curious case, because again, if Bloodtoon fights the Blangonga, I think he is going to kill it. And, well, probably with a somewhat difficult range here. But overall, I do think prey scores are like 10 out of 10, because again, they'll just eat about anything. I don't really think it matters to them. So with that being said here, we can actually move on to the next part, that being the threats and competition section. These animals are basically
everything that is going to threaten Wulvers.
And now, believe it or not, a different section for the ones that Bloodtoon will be fighting.
Everything that Bloodtoon is really going to fight. Because while I do think the Wulvers are around the Apex tier, there are just some creatures they cannot overcome.
Boss battle
ranges that I think that Wulvers do inhabit, their competition, especially in the likes of
those ranges. So we'll give them a specific fight.
With
now,
the
when it comes to competition that they have back at home,
the ground drakes and stuff like that, ogres, there are also
specifically they had Golon in Vanaheim,
and pretty much Wulvers are capable of conquering entire areas with just them, likely driving them out or pretty much just killing and eating them. The Dreki as well is also a creature in Vanaheim, as well as
we have the Dreki, which inhabit the waterways and can even snatch up a Wulver if they're not careful.
And believe it or not, I actually do think that these guys are viable competition.
It's very possible they do fight for prey.
I mean, they inhabit the waterways, and they can easily get a Wulver if it's off guarded and stuff like that. So believe it or not,
their own video.
Yeah, got to get old Dreki Drake over here.
Stuff like that.
However, they are supplemented, like I said earlier. And finally, these guys are capable of eating Wulvers, with maybe the alpha Wulvers like Bloodtoon in them being kind of immune to predation from them. And this is because they are capable of fighting back. But again, any regular and normal Wulver would get straight up steamrolled, stomped, and then
elder dragons of the region, just straight up on top.
You might say, well, what about the frosty
eating just about
peaks
anything
or the
they
snowy
want,
mountain
maybe
peaks
minus
here?
each other.
Well, believe it or not, they provide a large
so, with that being said, they should actually be able to handle a good majority of the competition within this region.
But this is actually
now,
going to be
the
interesting.
first creature we
Considering
have
one
to
of the
talk about,
lower
or basically the two
predators
for one,
that
are
would,
both Barioth and Tigrex,
likely prey
respectively.
upon
I know, so
and
crazy
try
for
to
them being
eat
so low on the list. But
Wulvers
again, I
would
did
definitely
include
be
Blandoga in the prey
and
section,
Tigrex. I know
and
it
this
sounds
is
very
because they can
interesting
actually
that
inhabit as both preying competitions.
these two
so,
are lower on my list when it comes to threats and competition.
And
but again,
are
they are just very simple. Barioth can easily ambush the Wulvers and snatch
Barioth
one up or snatch
ambush
kill
one
away
and definitely
and just kind of run off.
And well,
it's a
while
master
again,
at
if
its
an ambush
element
does
for a
fail,
reason.
this does mean they
Then
are going to have to
we
get
have
those claws.
Tigrex.
However, if
Come
they
on now, we
both,
already
or
know
if
what he's
Tigrex
about.
goes
I
in
mean, this is one of
blindly
the
and tries to
stronger
attack a pack of
wyverns
Wulvers,
of
he
all
could
time.
get swarmed,
We
and
know
then they
good and
can
well he's gonna
likely
try to
call
raid,
in
probably a
Platoon, or if
nest,
Platoon is
or
there,
probably a,
it's
den
not going to
of
go well for
Wulvers,
them.
and then trying
Stronger,
to eat one of
faster,
them,
or at
possibly
least
getting
tougher
one as
than
well.
they are and more
And keep in
resistant,
mind, these
he would
two
be
both
able
have
to
their
definitely
axes
go
and
toe to
abilities,
toe with a large
Tigrex
majority of
being
the
able to
monsters and
increase
straight
his
up just
rage
beat them.
via his
And
adrenaline,
even
and
Tigrex
then
in his
Barioth
more
with his ice
adrenaline-like
tornadoes,
state
ice
would just
blast.
get matched
But
up
next up, we
by
have
Bolfoon
Abarogu.
anyway, meaning they would just have another hefty meal to eat. Next off is Abarogu. Now, these guys I definitely think are much more difficult competition because, again, they do have much tougher, they're much tougher in general. Plus, the fact that they do live in groups for up to 2 to 3 members, I think that them traveling in their own packs, plus their versatility, means that they'll actually be able to take on a pack of Wulvers pretty fairly. And considering the fact that the Wolves are capable of withstanding their fire, yeah, I do think there are certain cases where a pack of Wulvers could become overwhelming, especially if they're all grouped up. Brachydios is a very interesting one in my opinion, because I don't see it really having a problem trying to, well, I guess you could say, get around the Wulvers. But the thing about it is, I don't really see him being a competitor. Brachydios is an ore eater and an occasional meat eater as well. So you could probably say he's very omnivorous. But I don't really see him going after the Wulvers when there's like just easier things to eat, especially for him. But again, if he does manage to stumble into the Wulvers territory and decides that, hey, they do look good, they could definitely swarm him and actually utilize their claws to likely dig deep, or stab deep, into his armor and just straight up start tearing him apart. Meanwhile, Brachydios can easily activate his explosions and start killing a few of them as well. So again, that is another 50-50. However, if Platoon steps in, then we have a different situation. Now with Platoon, his competition is going to be different considering he is around the elder level ranges. And with that being said here, this does mean he has to have fights with a couple monsters. So for starters, we have Doraki Russo, which is basically Bariki Russo, or the Rajang of the skies here, but with Dragon Element. So imagine giving Rajang wings and Dragon Element. Yeah, I think I would just run out of there entirely. But with that being said, I think Doraki Russo is actually pretty decent, or at least a great challenge because of the dragon element as well. And this could come back to bite them because, again, Wulvers can be amplified by magic. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah, Wulvers can be amplified by magic. Devil Joe also has the same situation where the Wulver or Platoon can definitely take it on and possibly even, at least, beat it off, but killing it I think is just kind of a little bit too much. But then again, well-placed stabs and stuff like that could definitely give the could definitely give Platoon the edge over Devil Joe. However, again, Dragon Element could potentially, weaken him and stuff like that. But again, it could also mix with his magic. Same thing with Stiggy and Zinogre. I do see Stiggy and Zinogre and Platoon kind of looking at each other and be like, oh, a fellow wolf. Turf war automatically, just kind of like how Luna Garen and Zinogre have turf wars. I kind of see it being the opposite, with Platoon being smaller than Zinogre. It's very possible he would likely just pounce on him. It's kind of funny because it's like the reversal situation, and just start beating on the Stygian, and then obviously get electrocuted off or something like that, and then get tail slapped as usual. Next off, we have Rajang, and well, this is actually pretty interesting. Because again, I actually do see that if Platoon does have a pack with him,
he could definitely overwhelm the likes of Rajang, considering the sheer fact that we do know some of the Apex monsters, or at least the higher tier Apexes like a Zorathos and Pink Rathian, are capable of fighting and crippling a Bazelgeuse, which is around the same level as a basic Rajang. And then we also have his electrical powers, which will definitely prove to be formidable, if not outmatch Platoon. The next one here is from online, and we'll be getting his own ecology video pretty soon. This one being Slice Margle, which is a fang beast, basically the battle beast of Monster Hunter. You see, these guys don't even go after herbivores, they go after other monsters, and simply because they find them to be worthy opponents worth eating. So basically, he's battle beast. He's not fighting for survival. He's fighting for the love of the game. And this is one of the few monsters I can definitely see the Wulvers and even Platoon avoiding altogether. However, believe it or not, I do think the Wulvers are going to have their limitations. Platoon as well. And this is because while some of these monsters are basic and have the standard versatility, which Platoon could go toe-to-toe with because of monsters like the Dreki and Gulon, there are just simply monsters with way too much versatility and obviously way too much power for even this alpha Wulver to handle. And that obviously being the Elder Dragons. Now, the first one we have in this region is Kirin. And this is, I'll probably say, kind of controversial in my opinion. Because again, Kirin's not a physical powerhouse. She's more of a haxy one. So Kirin could definitely overwhelm a Wulver with her versatility. However, if they are in groups, that is kind of a no. Automatic no, in my opinion. There's no way you're going to tell me that Platoon is going to be able to beat two Wulvers. But the next one we have here are both Kushala Daora species, both the regular and the rusted Kushala Daora. So with both of them here, I think it's kind of simple as to why their Platoon is not beating them. These are the literal tornado spammers of the Monster Hunter community. And we all remember how World Kushala Daora's had us angry. Alright, we all remember the rage we felt when we just kept getting hit with tornado after tornado after tornado after tornado. And dear Lord, I was using that poison to the best of my abilities because I was not letting Kushala Daora get one up on me. And then the same thing with rusted Kushala Daora. Tornado spam till the very end. There is no way any Wulver or even Platoon is overcoming that. They do not have the versatility, and they don't even have the muscle or power yet to actually be able to overpower it. So believe it or not, right now, yeah, Kushala Daora are just simply way too much entirely. However, they're not the only Elder Dragon in this region. Meet Harudagomer, or I'm just going to call it Haru. So the Haru species are pretty much, well, physical powerhouse Elder Dragons. So yeah, they were basically physical powerhouses before Nergigante. However, their versatility is quite different. They're able to basically pull a magneto and manipulate the liquid metal along their bodies to create projectiles, shields, so on and so forth. And this is something the Wulvers have just never encountered before. While they can definitely resist certain things, a metallic Elder Dragon that manipulates the metal of itself is vastly different. But next off, we also have the Zenith species. Now, Zenith Kezu is a very interesting one because, well, I don't see it being vastly difficult for Platoon, but again, it's definitely going to be a quite literal pain to deal with. While it can definitely withstand a large majority of its attacks, there are just simply too many things going within it for its favor. Then next off, we definitely have the Tigrex, the Zenith Tigrex. And this is Tigrex on absolute steroids. I mean, metallic claws, stronger bite, a literal spamming boombox of a voice, okay? These guys are just, nah, I wouldn't fight these again if you paid me. And if they ever make a Frontier remake, the unfortunate part is I'm going to play it and I'm going to likely die to this thing again. So, believe it or not, I do think Xeno Tigrex is pretty much just too much and too overwhelming. Now, next off, we have Teokatra Toa. Now, Toa here is basically a Teostra with ice. Yeah, this is the dominant elder dragon of the region, and pretty much I'm not dealing with it. I don't think Boltun will be able to deal with it, and in all honesty, I don't think it would have a reason to. So believe it or not, in terms of competition, the Wulvers are doing, at the very least, I would definitely have to give them a 6 out of 10 for how they're able to handle competition. Believe it or not, they are going to struggle greatly here due to the fact that they don't have any Hax's abilities or overwhelming strength. However, this is why we get into speculative evolutions here. How the Wulvers are going to evolve, how the Wulvers are going to overcome their, adversaries. By the way, this is the score I would give them for the Apex is 9 out of 10, Elder Tier 6 out of 10, and then the Elder Dragon Tier, or the Dragon Tier, which is 4 out of 10, which we are going to be doing for even the other God of War creatures here. So now let's talk about how the Wulvers could actually evolve, but it has to start from the top. And that has to be from their alpha himself, that being Blatoon. Let's talk about it. The Lychenoid Wolf Benasis, that being the King Wolf Hunter. The Lychenoid itself is actually a very interesting concept I kind of just came up with. This isn't my artwork, but again, I'm kind of using it to express it. So, believe it or not, what happened? What happened with Boltun that changed his entire species? Well, believe it or not, it came from the time he managed to kill a Zenith Tigrex. Barely. And I mean this, barely being able to kill it. He thought to himself, how the heck were these creatures so strong? How were they so powerful? How can his pack survive in this new world? And so he ate it. But he gained some new form of strength. Eating the zenith energy and the genetics of this Tigrex, it allows him to overpower other monsters. He then went on to kill a Rajang, finding it easier. He then went on to fight against a Slice Margle, that being able to stalemate it, and this is where his evolution happened. Throughout the years of the frontier lands, other monsters would suffer at the hands of this creature if they got too close to the Wulver pack, and then come mating season, this species would spread. However, unlike the drakes of the God of War franchise, the Lychenoids would be pack-orientated animals, with the females being a lot smaller than the males, or probably around 2 to 3 times bigger than a Wulver, while these males were bigger, more gargantuan in size, quite obviously. And they soon began to prey upon even elder dragons themselves. You see, the King Wolf Hunter has been able to show remarkable resistance to just about everything that any creature can dish out. They're stronger, faster, more resilient, to the point where if Kushala Daora is able to even blast its black tornado at them, they simply punch through it. Their claws are now, I guess you could say, kind of like a cat's, if you will, or kind of like Odogoron's. And the guild, pretty much doing their research on them, find them frightening. They're like a combination of Garen Golem's strength, Luna Garen's speed and ferocity, all with Malzeno's intelligence. Back in the lands of the frontier, these monsters would be known to actually prey upon the likes of Slice Margles and even the likes of Rajang, to the point where we actually see Slice Margle adapting by being able to actually go into their own family units of at least 2 to 3. However, they're not the only monsters that were actually unsafe now. Devil Joe, Zenith Tigrex, and even Haru were all vanquished by this creature. And it kept going, even spreading into the new world, and in forest regions it would commonly have turf wars with the likes of Espinas, where it would either stalemate or if one would be forced to retreat, Rathalos would get dominated, and even the likes of Black Veil Val Hazak found itself retreating from these creatures. But you might say, what makes these creatures so powerful that even Apex and Elder Dragons start to flee? Well, it's the one property the wolves have always had, but now they use it in a very different way, that being magic. Magic was already introduced in the Monster Hunter verse when Geralt came, right? However, with the Wulvers being there way before those events, this means magic is actually been an element
or at least a mystical property, or a mysterious property, excuse me, within these Wulvers. They use this mystical ability to actually enhance their strength and durability, and are even to create energy barriers around themselves. While it is basic, it allows them to withstand any attack, even being able to resist the likes of dragon element. However, that means no creature was safe for them. Gameth, Durambros, Gravios, all these dominant life forms fell prey to these animals, with the only way being able to escape for Gravios is obviously to submerge itself deeper within lava caverns. However, most of the time, this would not work, as the Wulvers' magical barriers would allow them to drop into the lava and straight up wrestle out a Gravios from it, even surprising the likes of a Cantor. However, when it came to Elder Dragons, some of them weren't even safe from them. We even see more pairings of Lunastra and Teostra in the New World, Kushala Daora simply staying in locations for a little, and Namiel adapting a more biological camouflage like Chameleos. However, there are some Elder Dragons that are too much, if you will. And luckily, it is the ones that stay at the top of the food chain that manage to be able to kill these Lychenoids. Beings like Ruiner Nergigante, regular Nergigante, as well as the likes of Primordial Malzeno and even regular Malzeno are still able to kill these Wulvers, or this new breed of Wulvers, if you will. The Lychenoids are capable of understanding when they are outmatched and often are able to retreat. However, those who are a bit more gluttonous will fall to the likes of these Elder Dragons anyway. However, the New World itself, and with the Geek Church in the guild, they actually do think the Lychenoids are actually a decent balance, as again, they don't overrun their ecosystem, having one alpha per region. And well, there are still rumors that Platoon is still alive. After so many years, they still see a crimson Lychenoid roaming around region to region. No one knows if this is true, but many have seen him, and many know he is still out there, adopting the same thing that a Slice Margot did, but of a different way. He's waiting for a worthy opponent, waiting for something to truly test his skills. He's not going to find his opponent, no. He's gonna wait for them to come to him, with only him leaving his shared, or his basically his own territory, in order to come out and hunt. And when he does, may God have mercy on the creature that he chooses to prey upon. And well, that's going to be all. Let me know what you guys think about this new lore for the Wulvers in Monster Hunter, and would you guys like to see more? Because I can't wait to show you how I'm adapting the Drakes or even the Corpse Eater. But that's going to be all today, you guys, and y'all have a blessed day.